Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Forking Politics. I'm Calvin Chapman, your host. This episode is going to be about migration, immigration, asylum, and all of the matters that appear to be in the press at the moment. During the 2015 election, I found that many people concentrated on this issue more than any other issue, despite the fact that this isn't the biggest and most important issue that UKIP deal with and stand for. However, it was misrepresented a lot in the media, and at present there's a lot more going on in regards to migration. So I thought episode 2 will deal with the issue of migration. So the first issue to always look at is, how is it defined? Google defines migration as, number 1, the seasonal movement of animals from one region to another, or number 2, movement from one part of something to another. And obviously we are animals, so we are within the definition. Anything that moves from one region to another is a migrant. So the students that go to Thailand, India or Australia during their gap year, they're migrants. The CEO of BP, if he happens to be American, he's a migrant. And it goes down to Polish workers coming over to pick fruit. They're all migrants. So the one thing that we do need to remove from the question of migration is refugees. UKIP has always said that it would abide by the 1951 Convention on Refugees. I don't think any party would seriously not wish to be part of that convention and the protocol that goes with it. So the definition of refugee is the same now as it was in 1951, and is a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution or natural disaster. There is a much larger definition within the 1951 Convention. The UN defines a refugee in the Convention as someone who, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable to, or owing to such fear is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country. That's a refugee, and every country that signed up to the 1951 Convention is obliged to give refuge to somebody seeking asylum within their country under the definition of refugee. And that came about primarily because of the upheaval at the end of the Second World War. As had happened at the end of the First World War, it was decided that there needed to be an international framework that would set out what a refugee is, when you can deny somebody refugee status, and what you are required legally and morally to provide to anybody that applies to you to be a refugee. There's a link down in the description that puts you straight onto the UN's website with the convention and protocol relating to the status of refugees. They are interesting reads, and I do recommend that you read them. If you have a look on the UN's website, there are actually some very interesting statistics. I've put a link down in the description that has a link to the UN's page about refugees and the United Kingdom, and they do make for very interesting reading. The first question, after outlining what an asylum seeker is, the UN says, does the UK have more asylum seekers than most countries? And their answer, as should be obvious, no it does not. With an estimated 173,100 asylum applications, Germany was the largest recipient of new asylum claims in 2014. The United States of America was second with 121,200 asylum applications, followed by Turkey at 87,800, Sweden with 75,100 and Italy with 63,700. By comparison, the UK received 31,300 new applications for asylum by the end of 2014. I think that should tell you that anybody who suggests that the UK is being flooded with asylum seekers is wrong and doesn't know the facts. There is a huge difference between asylum seekers and economic migrants, which is primarily what the press are talking about when they're looking at the people that are flowing into Europe at the moment. The UK press, when they're referring to migrants, primarily are referring to economic migrants. Most of the people that are in the port in Calais who are trying to get over into the UK, they are the same, they're economic migrants. I think it would be very dangerous for any political person to ever suggest that the UK does too much for asylum seekers. As you can see, the figure of 31,300, when you compare it with other countries such as Turkey, which isn't a large country and doesn't have a substantial number of inhabitants to begin with, if they're taking substantially more than us, nearly 3 times as many of us, then the UK isn't doing too much for refugees. The UK potentially could do a little more. So what I'm going to be talking about from here on in is economic migrants, health migrants, people that are coming to this country because they have a choice, even if their personal situation would suggest that they don't have a choice. The fact is, they have a choice as to which country they are ultimately aiming to arrive in. And there are many that would like to go to the United States, many that would like to come to the United Kingdom. There are many that would like to go to Germany. There are very few that would like to go to France, and I would suspect that Spain is the same. Many of them have gone over to Greece, and I can't imagine the horror that's going on in Greece at the moment. The Greek economy is on its knees. Greek people are putting up with an austerity that is quite frightening. The country has very little money and they are receiving substantial numbers of people on a monthly basis, and things are going to start going wrong very quickly if something isn't done for it. In regards to migration to the UK, I have put a link in the description below to Migration Watch UK. They are a non-political organisation that looks at migration. They are the nearest to correct figures that I can get that are not bent by politicians, political parties, or anybody that's got a vested interest in migration being one thing or another thing. So I do suggest you read the website, but I'd like to start with this, and it says England is already one of the most overcrowded countries in the world.